Good morning, guys. It's August 3rd, and I just kind of woke up a little while ago. I didn't vlog the last 2 days because I was finishing up the bar. So today is my first day of freedom. Oh my god, I'm so excited to be done and get some sleep again and be able to read again. It's just gonna be great, right? Okay, great. You guys probably know already that I'm doing a couple of readathons this month and that I have like some other plans. They might be subject to change, but that's the original plan that I've got for right now. Currently, I'm getting ready to eat breakfast. I'm having a gluten-free bagel and cream cheese and a nectarine. It's gonna be a great time. And yeah, that's about it. I feel like I've been run over by a train. I am so tired, so drained, and I just feel like I want to die. I have to wait 2 months until I get my results. I don't know if I'm going to start reading today or if I'll start tomorrow because I'm still pretty tired today. The first book I'm going to pick up is probably Emma by Jane Austen. I'm going to start that tomorrow, and then the Myth Take Readathon starts right away on Monday, and I'll probably start with Descendant of the Crane. So those are probably the two books that I'm going to start with, and of course I will keep you updated as the month goes on.
What you doing, Saj? You like laying on the laundry? Okay.
So it's now close to 2 in the afternoon, and I haven't really done anything. I went out with my mom and we ran some errands, and took Sasha with us, of course, and we just got back. And I was thinking about going for a walk, but it's too hot, so I'm probably not going to go for a walk. And I'm thinking about starting Emma, but at the same time I'm like, why do I want to do anything? I'm just super drained and super tired, and I have no idea what I want to do. I haven't really moved since we last talked. I've pretty much been in this chair all afternoon. I have not started Emma, but I did start inventorying my books, and I'll show you that in a subsequent clip because I record on my phone, so that's, fun. I wonder what this button does, actually. I still don't know what that did. I have my small friend here in my lap, as per usual, for the last couple of hours, just starting my inventory and catching up on YouTube. But it's just about time for me to go to dinner, so I'm going to do that in a minute. But first, I want to show you something in the playroom that I'm going to be working on come Monday. This is where I filmed earlier this month, and you saw me over there. That's my new kind of reading nook area because we brought my other couch home from my apartment, so we moved that couch over to this corner, and I kind of created it into like a little reading nook. And hopefully, okay, so just a brief overview. This mess is the playroom, and I hope to make a huge dent into it sometime this month. This little black shelf over here, which is not in the correct way, it stands up, so it's like long and whatever. This shelf is going to be the one that I start with, that I kind of referenced before. This is the one that was in my apartment. You guys probably saw it in the background. And then this little brown shelf over here is hopefully what is going to be my new bedroom shelf. And then this white shelf is going to be, I think, like an office bookshelf. And then I have this other brown one all the way over here by the TV. You can kind of see it sitting next to the TV. And that one is going to probably be, hopefully, for cookbooks. That's like my general plan, but we need to get more shelves. But anyway, just real quick. Some of these boxes over here, 95% of them are full of books. and they need to leave. And then I have a few full of like some movies and like other junk. We already took some boxes that we had in the garage and we moved those and got rid of those, but now we just need to get rid of those. And now over here, this is all the stuff that I'm keeping, but these boxes here, as you can see, there's a lot more than, but I have that like art thing in front of it, but there are about 10 boxes there, and all of those are full of books, and I need to go through them again, because I've come to the conclusion that I kept things that I didn't necessarily intend or want to keep, and so that's fine. And then we have these ancient Shakespeare editions. I don't want to touch them because they will fall apart, as you can kind of see here. Like, this book is very in very bad shape, so I'm gonna let my mom handle those when we ultimately pack them up, because they're so delicate that if I were to touch them, they would just break. So the majority of the things are in these boxes, and these are the ones that I want to go through again and weed through them again, because, or maybe even pack them better, because I did not do a very good job packing them. And then hopefully starting to inventory them. And then I also have like other places in the house that I want to go and take care of some bookish things. Sasha, I just brushed you. Do you like having that little look? Yeah, we love that. Love that. You're so cute. You gonna run away from me? I think you are. You're probably gonna run away from me. Oh, no, you didn't. Not yet, at least. Oh, there you go. Am I gonna come back for you, or are you gonna let me pick you up? Oh, yeah, this is my good girl. So here I am in bed, and I've been in here for a while, and I was gonna get ready to start Emma by Jane Austen, and I was gonna read the introduction, because these editions always have an introduction telling you a little bit about like the historical background behind the book and everything, but it's like 80 something pages. So that's not going to happen, because one, I'm exhausted. Two, I'm actually legitimately trying to fix my sleep schedule, and I'm going to bed by 11, which it is right about now. And so we're going to just wait until tomorrow to start the introduction, finish the introduction, and then hopefully get through a little bit of the book, because why? Why would you have an 80-page introduction, but also okay, I can deal with all of that great information. Yeah, hopefully it won't take me too long to get through, but we'll see. Oh, also, yeah, you can tell I'm a lefty, right? But anyway, I'm probably gonna go to bed, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Good morning, everyone. It is August 4th, and hopefully later on today I can start Emma by Jane Austen. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be my first time delving back into reading. There she is. Say good morning. So I think I'm going to start Emma, or at least the introduction. If the only thing I get through today is the introduction, that would be fine. I have the whole month to get through this, because the Classicasthon is literally all of August. But I might be Skyping with or something with a few college friends in a little while too. So we'll see what happens. But as always, I will update you when I get through this or something. But first, I want to show you. This is the bookmark I'm using, because I'm actually reading it in physical form. Tomorrow I'll probably start Descendant of the Crane, because the Myth Take Readathon starts tomorrow. And briefly, since we last talked several hours ago, a lot has happened. First of all, I ended up I did end up starting Emma, and I am now through the introduction. And before you ask, yes, that is the entire introduction. That's like 80 pages of introduction. And a lot of it is just kind of like social commentary and analysis. I don't know, it was kind of interpreted by the person who was doing the analysis. So it was taking you through like different word meanings, and there was some legal technology in there. I can't escape. I can't escape legal stuff. I've just kind of come to that conclusion, and maybe it's because like my brain is still on overload from the last couple of months, but like, oh, big turn off. It's making me reconsider whether or not I should be, reading this right off the bat. But it's fine. But then besides reading that introduction, I also Skyped with two of my very dear friends from college, and we talked for a while. We have a writing group together. I'm not a serious writer by any means. I don't expect to see anything published by me at any point in the future. I just have no desire or passion for that, like so many of other people on BookTube, and in the bookish community. It's not my thing. At one point it was, but not anymore. So I like to write for fun. We actually discussed the prospect of creating a book club, and the first book that we'd be reading would be And I Darken by Kirsten White, which has been on my TBR for quite a while. But it's hysterical talking to them now, and like also being part of the bookish community. It's like, oh, I heard about this book and whatever, and I'm like, what's the book? And then they talk about it. I was like, oh yeah, I know that really well. I'm like, oh, have you read it? I'm like, no. Just being part of the booktube community, you hear about all kinds of things, and books like that. But like that particular book is pretty popular. Like I've heard so many people talk about it, but it just sounds like right up my alley, and we all think that we're gonna like it. So we're just like, hey, maybe. So now we're getting some of our other friends involved, like as a group. There are like, I think total 17 of us, but majority I think is like 15. There are like 2 people who are just kind of like sort of part of it, but like not as in depth. It's a thing. But we were talking about doing that, and it sounds like I think we've got like 6 or 7 people already, which is great. I'm really excited to do this. Back to Emma, briefly. As I said, it's just like this whole social commentary analysis thing. So it's just like analyzing all of these different words and talking about like legal concepts, which is like, yeah, oh yeah, that's what this is. I was like, yeah, I know what that is. And just screaming inside because I just finished the bar exam a couple of days ago, and I wanted a bit of a break, right? And I didn't even get a day. Diving into this, I should have known that there was going to be legally things, and that's on me. But I just kind of wanted to get a start on this. I don't know how much I'm going to be continuing this over the next couple of days, because I want to, this book in particular can last throughout the month. Tomorrow I'm probably going to start The Descendant of the Crane, but that is on my ebook, and I actually need to go charge my Kindle because it's been sitting idle for like 3 months. So, cheers. I'm looking forward to delving into this, especially after reading the commentary, because it like analyzes different scenes and different like themes throughout the book. So I'll be interested to see what I ultimately think about it when I start it later on tonight. I want to get through chapter 2 so I can at least put that I read something in Goodreads, because Goodreads, at least this edition, does not count the introduction as pages read, which is honestly wrong, because I literally read all of that this past afternoon. So I'm mad about that. So that means I need to read at least 2 chapters. So we're going to do that, and I will check in with you guys either later or tomorrow. just finished 2 chapters of Emma, and I'm probably going to stop reading there, even though I probably could have kept going. I want to savor it. I want to go through it at a slower pace and everything. But so far, I'm enjoying what I've read. This is not a book for me to read at night because then I'll just fall asleep. But basically, what I've got so far from it is that Emma and her father are going to a wedding. But Emma is also like a huge matchmaker. She takes great joy and amusement from matchmaking people and setting them up together, but she doesn't want to have a match herself. She doesn't want to be in a relationship herself. But then one other thing that I have gotten from this so far is a discussion about property usage and like buying property, and then also like certain family relations of certain people. That's one really interesting thing about this book, because it does it in like a legal way. And remember how earlier I said I can't escape legal things ever at all? Yeah, well, I have a feeling that's going to be true throughout the rest of this book. It was talking about property disposition and leasing land and things like that. And the way that they describe it in this book, it makes me think, oh, it's a life estate. And the way life estates work is that the person who gets the land, they only get to hold that land for their life unless they devise it to their next of kin in their will, or before they die, kind of thing, which I have a feeling would be a very common thing during this period of time. But then it also talked about like family relationships and family law kinds of things. And they were talking about how someone in this book was adopted. And typically today, if you adopt someone, you have legal title over them, and they can inherit under that kind of succession. Basically, the person who was adopted in here would probably be able to inherit their adoptive parents' land and their assets upon their death, kind of a thing. So I mean, there is a very clear reason as to why they're probably talking about it this way. And as I said, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm getting to see it all in this very different light than I think a lot of people would. As I said, I really appreciated the introduction at the very beginning. As I said, 2 chapters in, and I've already picked apart that myself. And I mean, that's one thing I love Lucy's doing. She's putting on this classics readathon, or this classicsathon, to introduce people to classics and really just allow you to sit with them and kind of pick them apart as you go. So I think I'm going to really enjoy this vlog experience, because I will be able to pick apart my thoughts and talk about all of these things while I am going along, and I'll have this great record. Whereas, normally in the past, if I've read a classic, I haven't necessarily picked it apart piece by piece, but I'm interested and excited to see how that'll all turn out. But I noticed that Emma feels very similarly in this book, but she's a little bit more snobbish about it. She doesn't want to be in a relationship for a whole slew of reasons. I'm sure we'll get more of her thoughts and feelings on that as the book goes on. But I'll be very interested to carry on with all of the things that are going on in this book. I'm really excited to start The Descendant of the Crane tomorrow. It sounds really interesting and really intriguing, and I hope that I enjoy it. I've had a bit of a hit or miss situation with YA this year and just in recent times. So we'll see if I enjoy it, but I'll be interested to talk to you guys about it as I go. Good morning, guys. It's day 1 of the Myth Take Readathon, and I will be starting Descendant of the Crane later on today at some point. I have my Kindle here, it's all charged up. Sasha, hello. So, breakfast has been eaten, I'm all dressed and washed up, and it's Monday, and you know what that means. It's inventory time. You guys, I did it. Look at how pretty they are. I don't know if it's going to stay this way because I do have a different idea, but currently it's mostly in order by genre. I did not alphabetize it this time. I just didn't have the time or the patience. But this is what they look like for now. I'll give you a bit of a close-up so you can see. I'm not going to do a full-blown tour right now, but this is just a general overview as to what they look like. Oh no, it's upside down. Oh, I'll fix that later. That's where my bookmarks live. This is my historical fiction shelf. Mystery / historical fiction / thriller. Children's classics and stuff. My normal classics shelf. Fantasy and more children's classics. As you can see. And there we are. It is 11 o'clock right now, and I'm just letting you know that I completely 100% failed at all reading today. I didn't read anything for Classicasthon. I didn't read any more Emma, and I did not end up starting Descendant of the Crane. I just got so swept up in doing my reorganization / decluttering inventory project, and then I got caught up in some other things tonight, and it just didn't work out. So hopefully tomorrow goes a bit better and I'm able to squeeze a little bit of reading in. That maybe I made a mistake doing all of the readathons that I was planning on doing. But I'm going to continue trying. It's still early yet, so hopefully I can manage to squeeze some stuff in. Day 2 of the mythathon, and I haven't done any reading since Saturday, not Sunday, because today's Tuesday. And but I did get a lot of stuff done. I made a lot of progress on my decluttering project thing that I was talking about, or at least one of them. I've kind of been working on the books as kind of a first thing, but I'm taking a break from that now because the last place I have to be is the place I can't be at the moment. So I'm going to start Descendant of the Crane finally. large chunk of Descendant the Crane. I think I'm something like 18% of the way through, and it's interesting so far, but I also am still unsure as to kind of how I feel about it. Basically, what's happened so far is our main protagonist, Hesina, I think is how you say her name. Hesina. Her father, who was the emperor or the king, was murdered, and now she's trying to figure out who killed him. So she's going through a lot of different things in order to do that. Like, she went somewhere that she wasn't supposed to talk to someone who could potentially help her. Then she got advice from different people, and now she has become queen. She never really wanted to be queen. She's always kind of been a bit of a wily princess, always trying to live up to different people's expectations or be like other people, and she's just not that. But she has become queen, and we've kind of gotten to see some of the relationships start to unfold. Like, Hesina's mother is an interesting character, and then Hesina's brother, and then like her, what are they, adoptive family, I think. And just there's a whole slew of characters, and just their different dynamics are really kind of interesting. But yeah, it's basically just a story about this girl trying to figure out what happened to her father and try to live up to people's expectations. It kind of jumps around a lot, and it doesn't have a nice flow. Like, the writing, it took me a little bit to get into, but it's, once you do, it reads very kind of poetically, and it's very descriptive in certain ways. But when it comes to the flow of the plot, it doesn't really have one. It just kind of jumps from one thing to the next, and there's really no like segue or like downtime scenes. It's just jumping from one thing to the next. So that's a bit disorienting sometimes. I also just have not yet fully connected with any of the characters. They're interesting enough in different ways, but I don't have that extra connection that I usually come to expect when I'm reading a book. But I'm intrigued enough, and the world building is interesting. So, and I just really like the Chinese setting and the lore and the history and everything that is kind of interwoven in. So it's definitely keeping my interest enough, despite everything else lacking. I'll be interested to see where things go, because part one just ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, but so far I'm intrigued. So guys, I did this shelf today. This is gonna be the new shelf that goes in my bedroom at one point, and I'm like so excited about it. So just a little brief tour with it. I have my top shelf, which isn't done yet because I have a few things I need to add or take away. But I have this lantern that I got from my graduation from undergrad. And then I have the shell that's next to it, the conch shell that I picked up when I was young in the Cayman Islands. And then, of course, I have my illustrated editions of Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, and Prisoner of Azkaban. They're the illustrated editions. Then the shell that's next to it, I believe I also got in the Cayman Islands. I just found those, actually. So I'm excited about that. And then I have my blue dolphin that I got from the Murano Glass Factory in Italy. And I love dolphins, as you'll see shortly. Then moving down to the next shelf, I have all of my Harry Potter paperbacks. The Deathly Hallows one is brand new. I only got that like a couple of months ago, and I'm super excited about it. So then I have the Silmarillion, The Hobbit, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King, all by J.R.R. Tolkien. Love those editions. They're really pretty. I would take them out, but I don't want to right now. And then I have my copy of Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston that Vendi from Caught Between Pages so generously got for me for my birthday this year. And then I have a piece of brain coral that I got in the Caymans. Like pretty much all of the shells that you'll see on this shelf are from the Caymans, so just so you know that. And then I have that dolphin on a rock, and I'm pretty sure I got that when I went to Florida a while back. Then on my next shelf, I have my entire Realm of the Elderlings collection. I am so beyond excited that they all fit on one shelf. Like, they've been on separate shelves for years, and I just am so excited that they all fit on one shelf and that there is still room at the end to fit more things. Like, that's just astonishing to me. So the first one I have is Assassin's Apprentice, then Royal Assassin, and Assassin's Quest. Then I have Ship of Magic, The Mad Ship, and Ship of Destiny. And then I have The Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince. Then Fool's Errand, The Golden Fool, and Fool's Fate. And then Dragon Keeper, Dragon Haven, City of Dragons, and Blood of Dragons. And finally, Fool's Assassin, Fool's Quest, Assassin's Fate. And then I have my signed mass market paperback copy of Fool's Assassin that one of my very, very dear college friends gave me as a very belated birthday gift. And then once again, we have a shell, and that's from the Cayman Islands as well. And then I have this other tiny dolphin fellow, and I'm pretty sure I got that when I was in, I think out west, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not entirely sure where I got him. And now I have the very bottom shelf, which as you can see is very empty. And I just have the old-fashioned storybook down there, and then a piece of brain coral that I got from the Cayman Islands this trip that I went to back in January. And then I have my another dolphin that I got from Italy at the Murano Glass Factory or somewhere around there. As you can see, I love dolphins. They're arguably my favorite animal. But I'm just so in love with how the shelf has turned out so far. And then I also am slowly working on my reference slash office shelf. It's looking pretty good so far. I'm not going to do a tour of it, but I'm really liking it so far. And then as you saw yesterday, I have my main shelf. And I actually asked my dad to get me another shelf because there are a few other books that I need to take care of. Okay, so for instance, over here, my travel treasures, if you will, and they need a place to go. Except for this orange fellow. I created him back in the 4th grade. Art is not my strong point. It does not look like what it's supposed to look like. I'd love to hear your guesses, and I will tell you if you're right or not in the comments. But it's a bell, and here he is in all of his wonderful glory. But yeah, I'd be very interested to hear what your thoughts as to what he is supposed to be in the comments. None of you are going to get it. There's a 100% guarantee. But I will give you a little bit of a hint. It's supposed to be an animal. These 3 boxes here are my mom's books, the majority of them at least, somewhere down in my dad's library, and I haven't had a chance to get there yet. And then that little box over there next to the shelf is my maybe book my maybe books that I'm debating about whether to get rid of or to keep. Yeah, and I should show you how different my room looks now. My shelf is still in the same spot it was in before, but it is quite bare now. My top shelf now has just my Realm of the Elderlings coloring book, and then my Middle Ages paper that I did, and it's my hardcover Harry Potter collection, and then it has Tales the Beetle the Bard, and my Ravenclaw edition. I'm actually debating about whether or not I am actually Ravenclaw, but that's a different video for a different time. And then I have the Battles of Tolkien, and Beowulf, and the Lost Tales, and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Then I have the Children of Hurin and the Legend of Sigurd and Gudrun, so that's shelf 1. And then the only other shelf that I've got is this one right here. And for that, I have the complete book of the Flower Fairies. Then I have the World of Tolkien, the Divine Comedy, and the Barnes & Noble Special Edition. To My Daughter with Love. And then I have Oh, the Places You'll Go, Chicken Soup for the Mother and Daughter Soul, Bilbo's Journey, Those Terrible Middle Ages, J.R.R. Tolkien, Myth, Morality, and Religion. Then I have the Scorpio Races, which was another gift that I got from Vendi. And then I have the Iliad and the Odyssey in the Barnes & Noble Special Edition, which, is not my favorite copy, but it's a, one that I've got regardless. And then I have this, rock that I sanded and tried to morph into something, and it kind of looks like a lion, but, realistically, probably not. And I have yet to decide what I am doing, but that's all the books I have left. Those books are going to be leaving, so when I get my new shelf that I put in the playroom, I'm going to put these books on that shelf and go from there. Been several hours since we last talked. I haven't really done any more reading, mostly just doing the things that I said I had to do. I talked to another friend for a while on Skype. You guys are going to probably hear that phrase throughout the month because I haven't been able to talk to my friends. Some of them I haven't talked to in like face to face in over a year. And others I haven't been able to talk to because of the bar and prep and stuff, so I had to isolate myself. So I'm just playing major catch up with some of them. But yeah, I haven't done any new reading since we last talked, but I am planning on picking up some more of Emma, so I can hopefully make another dent into it. I don't know, read maybe 2 more chapters or something. But that's about all of the rest of my plans for the night. So I just finished 2 more chapters of Emma, and these chapters were just, introducing us to more characters, and there was one chapter all about gossip. But one thing that I really liked is that we finally got to meet Harriet, chapter 4, and I actually really like her character so far. She's really interesting, and I have a feeling that I'm going to like her more as the book goes on. But chapter 4 was kind of Emma and Harriet getting together, and they were talking about different men and kind of who would be the best pick out of these men based on not only their assets and the type of estate that they live on, but also due to the types of activities they enjoy doing. So Emma's kind of playing her matchmaker game by talking to Harriet about which man she thinks she should pursue or whatever, and it's just super amusing. Emma is a lot, but also interesting. It's gonna be fun seeing how a lot of the things play out in this. But one other thing that I'm gonna be interested to see unfold in this is in the introduction. Remember the 80 some odd paged introduction that I was reading the other day? Well, they were talking about how there are subtle kind of LGBT themes in this between Emma and Harriet. There's definitely some kind of tension going on there that could be construed to be either romantic or sexual in nature. And I'll be interested to see, because they pointed out some specific examples in the book where Emma describes Harriet and just kind of how she was talking about how attractive she looked and things of that ilk. So I'll be interested to see how much of that actually shows up in here and how obvious it is. Because now, of course, in later days, everyone always has to pick apart classics word by word and analyze them and talk about them in one way or another. And they just kind of, in a way, lose all meaning because everyone's like trying to put 20th or 21st century morals and interpretations on a book that takes place in the 19th century. So I'll be interested to see what I think and just kind of trying to place myself in the mindset of when this book took place, especially, knowing the historical background and everything. It'll be interesting to see, and I look forward to delving into this a little bit more in the future. Good morning, guys. It's August 7th, so that means it's Wednesday, and I'm going to hopefully make some chunks in both Emma and Descendant of the Crane, and also continue my projects and whatever. But I'm also planning on editing a video that has been waiting to be edited for a long time. Oh, remember that video I was telling you I was editing this morning and that I said was gonna probably be really long? Well, it is currently 1 hour and 19 minutes. I should read 2 chapters of Emma. That's kind of going to be what I'm planning on doing. Just doing 2 chapters of Emma every day until I finish it. I think that's a good quota. But today's chapters were pretty much just all about Emma and her relationship with Harriet. So the first one was focusing on like all the gossip of the people, so like talking about Emma and her relationship with Harriet and how close they are, and they use the word intimate a lot, and like even Emma has kind of shown these different ways of like talking about how attractive she is and like things like that. So it looks like the subtext of the introduction is real and I'm kind of loving it. But then the second one was talking about like drawing portraits and drawing likenesses of different people. And Emma sat down and drew a portrait of Harriet, and a lot of people were critiquing her on it or talking about how wonderful she was and how great she was at everything. So just really boosting her ego in a lot of ways. And honestly, Emma does not need an ego boost. But it's interesting because looking at the people around Emma in her life, they also have an ego issue. So I'm just having interesting thoughts and feelings about that whole situation. I'll be interested, as I said, to see how all of these relationships continue developing. But then we also finally have started to get to know Mr. Knightley a little bit, and I'm really liking him a little bit so far. He's interesting, and I'll be interested to see how him and Emma interact as the book goes on. Just finished the next chunk in Descendant of the Crane, and wow, I'm actually liking it quite a bit more than yesterday. Yesterday was just weird. It just felt very disjointed and it didn't flow very well. First of all, I'm just going to put this out there. I would never in a million years want Hesina as a client because she would just be the client from hell. But as a book character, I like her. She's interesting. She's got quite a bit of spunk and a lot of determination and just a lot of qualities that I really like. There's some legal stuff because there's a trial, and I'm just sitting here screaming once again, I can't escape. And I have a feeling it's gonna be like that the rest of my life. Like, I'm never gonna be free. I subjected myself to this, I chose this life, and now I'm here forever. Love that. So I just finished my 2 chapters of Emma for the day, and these chapters are actually quite interesting. Emma and Harriet were discussing a letter that Harriet got from a suitor of hers, and they were, she was trying to ask Emma for her advice as to what she should do. Ultimately, after kind of some weird manipulation tactics, Harriet decides to refuse the proposal offer. And then the chapter following that is everyone kind of figuring out what happened, and there's a confrontation with Mr. Knightley and Emma and discussing the fact that her infatuation with Harriet is unhealthy and that she shouldn't build up Harriet's expectations as to her suitors and her potential suitors, and just kind of like building it up to something that is not realistic. I really liked those chapters. I finally feel like I'm starting to settle into the book a little bit more, and I'll be interested to see what happens as the book goes on. I just finished a few chapters of Descendant of the Crane, and I didn't get very far today because I got a late start tonight. It's been a busy day. I did a lot of cleaning and decluttering of the playroom and hung out with my grandma. I watched The Crimes of Grindelwald too, and overall I didn't hate it. I thought it was really interesting, really well done. Newt is like literally my small precious child. I love him so much, and it's kind of made me realize that maybe I actually am a Hufflepuff. I did read, I think, like 2 chapters of Descendant of the Crane, and I'm still enjoying it, but I'm starting to notice the disjointedness again, and like how rushed everything is and how just jumpy everything is. At the basically 24-hour readathon on Saturday, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. Hopefully I can get a whole bunch of reading done, but realistically I'm not expecting to. But hopefully I can at least make a larger dent than I have been in both Emma and Descendant of the Crane, and that I can, as I said, hopefully finish Descendant of the Crane. Hey guys, so today I haven't done any reading. I did a lot of cleaning and organizing stuff this morning, and now I'm getting ready to go for a walk, and I figured I'd show you guys around my neighborhood a little bit, and maybe the lake that's close by, so you guys can get a little bit of a feel for where I live. This is one of my favorite places ever. Welcome to what I call the new beach. I had a sailboat here for a long time, and then we had a kayak as well. Fun fact about me, willows are arguably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, trees. Yeah, we can't really use it very well because of all the algae and everything. It's pretty awful, honestly. But yeah, willows are one of my favorite trees. It's the dock that I would sit on and enjoy. And out there, let's see if I can zoom in a little. Out there is a little island with a house on it. So you can see some people live on the lake and they have their own docks. And just showing you further out. And then this is the other side of the docks. And see, there's a bench. I love this bench. And that's where I'm going to sit. And one more panoramic view. So I just finished 4 chapters of Emma, and that was not in the plan today. Today's chapters, were kind of interesting. So the first one was really entailed a lot of riddles and kind of like a back and forth. They call them charades, but like a really big back and forth kind of a thing. Like someone would send a letter with these riddles or charades in them, and the other person had to kind of figure out what was going on. And honestly, this is something I haven't really talked about a lot on my channel, but I absolutely adore riddles and little kind of puzzles in books. I just find them so fun. It's part of the reason why Riddles in the Dark is one of my all-time favorite chapters in books. I just love it so much. So I really enjoyed that chapter and just trying to figure out all of the riddles and everything. And then the next two chapters, they kind of blended together a little bit for me. It was just a lot of gossip and discussion once again about specific things that were going on in different people's lives. Like, Emma is very, very self absorbed, like, even more so than I originally thought she was. And she's just very snobbish and just has a very, just a certain kind of mentality that's really frustrating. Like, she's like, I've never been in love. I don't want to get married. Period. End of story. And I'm just like, okay, you do not have an open mind. So she's just incredibly narrow-minded and just only cares about herself and like certain people in her little self-absorbedness. And it's just really interesting to see and kind of compare and contrast her with Harriet. Harriet is a little bit more outgoing, but she's a lot more dependable. Like, she won't do anything without Emma's approval or Emma's, kind of say so. And that's a little bit frustrating too. But, like, in terms of their love lives and their social lives, it's definitely very interesting to see the parallel between the two of them. I won't say much more than that. It's a classic, so I don't want to call it a spoiler, but there's just something about this book that I think you guys really need to experience yourself if you haven't. Last chapter that I read today introduced another one of Emma's family members and just kind of talking to her and seeing Emma interact with her and everything. So, yeah, we're just plodding along. Just a lot of day-to-day stuff. Different things are happening in terms of like relationships and whatever. The little that we have seen of Mr. Knightley, I actually really like. He's apparently a really good friend of the Woodhouse family, so Emma's family. So just getting to see that dynamic is really interesting too. Yeah, I'm continuing to like it, but it's slow moving as per usual. And yeah, I finished a bunch of Descendant of the Crane again. I didn't read as much as I was planning on, but I am now halfway through and I'm still enjoying it. And I've decided part of what bothers me about this book is Hesina is not one of those like endearing dumb protagonists. She's just a dumb, frustrating protagonist because she's always getting herself into stupid trouble that could be avoided if she listened to one person or another. And I find that I have very complicated feelings for her. It's interesting because we're getting to see some of her relationships with the people around her explored a little bit more. Like, her brother's kind of popping in and out of the picture. He's more annoying than anybody though, because he's just angry all the time because of a lot of reasons, and I'm just so tired of hearing him complain and bitch about everything. And then another character is kind of like being set up to be a romantic interest for Hesina, and I just don't see it. Like, I don't like it. Maybe I shouldn't say I don't see it. Obviously, I see it. I just don't like it. And that's actually really uncommon for me. Normally, I can get behind or understand a romantic relationship. I don't have to like it necessarily, but like I can, get behind it in some level or another. Yeah, this one, at least at the moment, I'm just not digging it. It's like I like them as friends and I like them and their relationship that's been, explored so far, but I just don't support them romantically. Yeah, she should just be left alone. So should he. Like, just let them live their lives. It's fine. Side character romance, I can dig on. Today is the basically readathon, the 24-hour readathon that I'm taking part in. As I said yesterday, I have no idea how much I'm going to get to, but the only challenge that we do have for the whole thing is to read a book that's been on our TBR for ages. I'm already doing that with Emma. I'm going to probably read a couple of chapters of that and then spend the rest of my day focusing on Descendant of the Crane. I need to finish that book by this weekend sometime. I don't know, early next week even too. I just really want to finish Descendant of the Crane. Breakfast and I've dressed and it is now 11:15ish and I'm getting ready to start my portion of Emma for the day. I'm trying to decide if I just want to do 2 chapters or if I want to try and just finish part 1, so then I will be satisfied with my life and like be through one part of the book, so then I can start part 2 fresh tomorrow or on Monday, whichever I decide. We'll see what deciding. It'll just, I think, depend on how focused I'm able to be. And after that, I'm going to switch over to Descendant of the Crane, and I really hope to finish it either today or tomorrow, because I have more things to read for Myth Take next week, and it's only a 2-week readathon, so I'd like to try and finish that one. I have the rest of the month to finish Emma, but it would be nice to, get through part 1 within a week, even though I did start it on Sunday. Part of me wants to, finish part 1 today. So I just finished the 5 chapters that I talked about before in Emma, so that means I finished part 1. So that means tomorrow I'm gonna get to start with part 2. Basically what happened today is Harriet got sick, so she was out of the picture, but because Harriet's off the page and not talking to anybody, it doesn't mean that she's, not part of the book. She is very much a big presence throughout the chapters that she's not part of due to her illness. And in some ways, I think I've kind of come to the conclusion that Harriet is, in some ways, our protagonist more than Emma is. Emma is currently going to a bunch of parties and talking to a bunch of different people, and I think she found out that Harriet likes someone in particular and she's trying to make that match happen, but it's not happening, and so Emma's just getting herself into a lot of trouble and a lot of shenanigans are happening and whatnot. Still enjoying all of the different social commentary and everything, and there was a fight with Mr. Knightley. Emma and Mr. Knightley had a bicker session, if you want to call it that, and I really like that because I love that Mr. Knightley is not afraid to call Emma out on her BS because Emma is a lot, honestly, and it's just refreshing to have someone stand up to her instead of having everyone kowtow to her. It's just nice. So I'm just going to stop reading Emma today. So a total for the readathon, I think I've read something like 42 pages. I started on page, I think it was 97. Yeah, I started on page 97 and currently I'm on page 139. So I think that's somewhere in the 40 page range. So I'm glad that I at least got a large chunk of this done, and I'm calling that a win on this specific book for the readathon and for my quota for the day. Currently 12:32, so I've still got quite a bit of the day left, and I think I could probably crank out a lot, and if my day goes according to plan, maybe I could finish Descendant of the Crane and just go into a new week with starting a new book and just be happy about it. But that's being a little bit too optimistic, so we'll see what happens. The break I ended up taking was about 3 hours, because I was moving some things out of the playroom. But now it's time for me to jump into the Descendant of the Crane, and then I'm having dinner in around an hour-ish or so. So hopefully I can make a large dent into the book now, and then again a little bit later. I've still got a bit of time left, and we'll see what ends up happening. Finished a whole ton of Descendant of the Crane. I read a whole ton of it today, honestly. I'm at like 85, I think, 85%. So the readathon was a success for that book. I'm probably going to finish it tomorrow. It took a lot of twists and turns I was not expecting. I mean, it's rare that I am actually stunned and surprised by a book and its plot. And it's to say that this book has done that. It's just gone in a very, very different direction than I was expecting. It's kind of like, remember when I was talking to you guys about The Historian, and how it's a book that took a bunch of twists and turns that I wasn't expecting? Like, it's not a surprising book, or, you know, a book that I was surprised by because I didn't see something coming. It's not that I didn't see something coming, it just went in a very different direction than I was expecting. That's what The Descendant of the Crane is like. I also still don't care about the romance. Like, it's pretty rare for me to not care about a romance, but I really don't care. So now to wrap up this 24-hour readathon, I didn't do as much reading as I was expecting, but I also got a lot of reading done. I read 5 chapters of Emma, which took me from page 97 to page 139. So I think that's 42 pages, something like that. And then I read from 50% all the way up to 85% of Descendant of the Crane. And I was hoping to finish it. I was hoping to at least get to 75%. Obviously, I surpassed that by a mile. I also had like an inkling, was like, oh, maybe I'll finish it. Didn't end up finishing it, but I will definitely be finishing it tomorrow. And then I can start Monday off with a proper bang. So all in all, I'd call this readathon a success. Good morning, guys. It is August 11th. And this morning, I'm going to try and read through 3 more chapters of Emma. I'm changing up my reading schedule just a little bit. And then I have a bunch of house things to do. And then hopefully later on today, I can finish up Descendant of the Crane. Just finished Descendant of the Crane. And wow. What an ending. Holy shit, honestly. It was very unexpected, and I'm excited because for once I was actually surprised by things in a book. I mean, like, I knew that a specific character had a bigger role than we originally are introduced to. Like, I just figured he had a bigger role to play, and that he was probably like kind of along the lines as to what I was thinking. It was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But just the events of what happened was wild. I only read 1 chapter of Emma, and I was thinking about reading more in the afternoon, but my whole day just got eaten up with like cleaning and decluttering and stuff. So 1 chapter it is, and that's fine. I can read a whole bunch more tomorrow. The chapter I read, it was just kind of Emma and I think her father. Yeah, her and her father, I think it is. They went to visit somebody, and they were like talking about different people and different things and whatever. It wasn't a very important chapter, granted. A lot of them are just downtime and like gossipy chapters, and it's like, yeah, okay, fine. And I tend not to really be able to focus on classics late at night, or at least certain kinds of classics late at night. So no more of that is going to be happening. But other than that, that was pretty much my day. Last night I finished Descendant of the Crane, and I just realized I never put my progress report of Emma for the day into Goodreads, but I only read one chapter yesterday, so I don't know, I might make up for it today by reading two or something. But I'm probably going to start reading my chapter or chapters for the day shortly. But I also have more cleaning and decluttering stuff going on today. So we'll see if I get that done. And then later on today, I'm planning on starting The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. Looking forward to it. As I said last night, I just haven't seen any ancient Egyptian fantasy based worlds before. So I'm just like super excited about it because I was that kid. I was obsessed with ancient Egypt for a long time. Still want to go there. Don't know if it'll ever happen. But yeah. Finished my couple of chapters of Emma this morning, and I'm actually liking it a little bit more now that I'm getting into it. I don't know what it was, but one just didn't grab me or hold my interest as much as I would have liked. There were parts of it that I really enjoyed, but parts of it that were just kind of meh. But part two so far is really intriguing. So it starts out with someone that Emma thought Harriet really liked. Emma found out that he's now engaged, and she's just like panicking about it, but trying not to panic about it. And it's really kind of amusing to watch kind of her meddling and her attempts at trying to like bring happiness and whatever kind of blow up in her face. It's just really funny to me. She's really concerned about Harriet, of course she is. But then also there was a part where we were learning a little bit about this new character named Jane Fairfax and how Emma just really does not like her. And I mean, really does not like her for one reason or another. She thinks, once again, she was commenting on her appearance and everything because I am like convinced that Emma is bi, maybe? I don't know. I'm convinced that she is something. And so she's commenting on her appearance and she's like, yeah, she's pretty, it's fine, but like, here are all the reasons I hate her. And I'm just like, God, Emma, you're so petty. But obviously no one holds a candle to Harriet in Emma's mind. It's fine. But yeah, we're really just kind of digging into all of the shenanigans that are happening now that this guy is now engaged and has upended all of Emma's plans to get Harriet some happiness, whatever. So yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. Well, since I talked to you, and that's because all I did all day was just kind of do some more decluttering and getting rid of stuff. But since then, like, this room is 99% done. I just need to get another 2 bookshelves because we have some books that do not have homes at the moment. They're sitting over in the corner. But I'm so satisfied with this room. Like, I keep coming in here just to look at it because it looks so nice. I can't wait to do the rest of the house. We're going to be doing more stuff tomorrow. Do my mini review of Descendant of the Crane. As you guys know, I finished that last night. And basically, what this book is about is it is an Asian-inspired fantasy that follows our main character, Hasina Yan, or Yan Hasina, I believe is the correct order. And her father has just died. And because of her father's death, she's kind of thrown into all this chaos. She wants to figure out kind of how he died, what happened, kind of a thing. And then there's also a lot of political intrigue in the book. Like, it is very, very, very heavy on the political intrigue side of things. So now just kind of breaking it down into the categories that I normally do. Starting with the world building. There isn't really a ton of world building, I'd say. I mean, some people might find it so because it is still a fantasy novel, but it's not like there is super extensive world building. This does take place in an Asian inspired world, primarily China, if I remember correctly. And it takes place during this kind of, there's a lot of upheaval between Jan Hsina's family and then their overall kingdom and these people called the Sooths. And the Sooths are these magic wielding kinds of people that have all of these different powers depending on the person. Some person could do really cool things with sand. Another person could do things with light and shadows, things like that. And just the Sooths are very ostracized within their community and their world, and people don't like them for one reason or another. It wasn't really properly explained exactly why they were so hated, but there's a lot of tension between people like that. And even if you are a sympathizer or a person who, you know, agrees with them or likes them or things of that sort, you are also seen as bad. So there's that, but then there's also between Hesina's kingdom and then also what are they called? The Kendians, I think is what they're called. And there's this tension and this war going on with that specific kingdom as well. So as I said, there isn't a ton of world building, but there are a lot of magical elements. I'm not calling it magical realism because I don't really see it that way, but there are definitely magical elements in this real feeling world kind of a thing. Now moving on to the writing. The writing in some ways is where this book kind of lacked for me. It took me a while to get used to it, but I also found that it kind of changed as time went on. So the book is split into 3 parts. Part 1, wasn't a huge fan of part 1. Part 2 went in kind of waves for me. I liked the beginning. The middle was kind of okay. And the last part of part 2 was really good, really exciting. And then there was part 3, and I loved all of part 3. So as you can kind of see, I had just a general mixed bag across the board in terms of parts I liked and parts I didn't. So going in, know that it might take you a little bit of time to get into and settle in, because it's a weird, strange situation. But another thing to keep note of is the pacing is incredibly strange. It's pretty fast paced for the most part, but just things, particularly in the first, I don't want to say half because it's probably less than that, but like the first quarter of the book, like not just part 1, but part 1 into like a large chunk of part 2. So I guess maybe it is the first half of the book. Things are actually no, even throughout the whole book, but I think you just kind of get used to it after a while. But like throughout the whole book, things are very disjointed. That jumps from one thing to another with like no transition scenes. It's just kind of like, okay, this thing, now we're over here and whatever. And it's very disjointing. But at the same time, it pulls you in. I want to know what's going to happen next, and I'm intrigued enough by this thing to keep going, as much as like this other thing is just really, really distracting. I know a lot, and I mean a lot of people who have DNF'd the book, or some people who just gave it kind of lower ratings, but a lot of people I also know gave it kind of high ratings. It's a very mixed bag. But to those people who DNF'd it, and like they put generally like the percentage that they DNF'd it at, and I got to that point, I was like, on one hand, I can understand why, but on the other hand, you're missing a lot and you're not giving it its full chance to unfold and everything, because a lot happens in the latter half that is incredibly important and really starts to tie in and connect everything that was super disjointed and like strained from the first half. So I don't know how to say that other than just like try and keep going, try and keep pushing through. Like I definitely did, but that's because like I cannot DNF. But it got very strange for me at certain parts, and I was like, where are you going? Now moving on to the plot. The plot of this book, as I mentioned earlier, is that Hesina's father has died, and she does not believe the imperial doctor when they say that he died from natural causes. She believes that he was either murdered or died in some nefarious way. And so the entire book follows her trying to find out what happened to her father while also being the queen. She does become queen right away. I mean, that's not really a spoiler, I don't think, but whatever, because it literally happens right away. And then she's also trying to balance all of the politics stuff, like with the Sooths, and then also with the pending war with Kendia, I think is what they're called, while also dealing with some stuff that are like within the ranks of her walls, within other high officials and whatnot. And I mean, as I said, this book is incredibly heavy on the political intrigue. Like, no joke. If you do not like political intrigue in your fantasy or in any books whatsoever, stay far, far away from this book, because 95% of it is political intrigue. But if you do love it, like, you will probably enjoy it. I love political intrigue in my books, especially my fantasies. Just makes it extra interesting for me to try and figure things out and whatnot. So yeah, I definitely really enjoyed that aspect. Another thing about the plot is it does take twists and turns that you really might not expect. Like, there are a lot of predictable aspects to the book. Like, certain plot points are really, really predictable, but then the author does things with those plot points, and you're just like, whoa, I wasn't expecting it to go in that specific direction. So that kind of threw me a little bit. Normally I'm able to really predict books and just be like, yeah, okay, whatever, plot is secondary to all of my other reading experience. I really only care about the characters, whatever. But no, here you really kind of had to pay attention to the plot and all of these different strings that were being pulled. If you guys choose to pick up the book and choose to read it, definitely come talk to me about your thoughts and ideas and theories as you're going on, because I'll be interested to see what your interpretation or what your theories and different ideas about the plot are as they're going, because as I said, it's rare for me to get tripped up by a book, but this one threw me a little bit. And as I said, like, certain aspects of the plot get really ridiculously weird. So I had an experience with that. Like, there was a point where something just got super weird. I was like waffling with like what I was even thinking of the book. I was like, this is kind of middle of the road because I am liking all of these aspects, but then like this thing is just like making me not so sure if I'm liking this. But then by the end, I actually did thoroughly end up enjoying it, and the epilogue kind of gave me some chills. It was kind of crazy. And the thing that you guys should know is this book is a standalone, so there's nothing coming after this, but the author has mentioned that she has some novellas and I think short stories in mind for the world, like some old characters and some characters we've never met before. So I might be interested in checking those out depending on who they're about, because there were some threads that were left open and some things that were left unresolved that I would like to know more about, kind of a thing. Characters. The characters in this book are interesting. Relationships that seem very superficial are not at all superficial. And relationships that you think are complex are something else entirely. And there's just a lot I can talk about with the characters, but it's kind of difficult to without doing the spoiler thing, but I'm going to try. So Hesina had, mother and father. Father is dead. Mother is not my favorite character. I don't really like Hesina's mother. She's quite irritating. I mean, it's a little bit more understandable kind of towards the end, but I still really didn't like her. She's cold and unfeeling in a way, and I'm just like not about that. So yeah. But then Hesina also has a biological brother named Sun Jing, and they have an interesting, complicated relationship, a very, very complicated relationship due to some other reasons and whatnot. But Sun Jing is a army war general kind of a guy, and he's always kind of off doing war things, but then at some points he periodically does come back to the palace, and their interactions are always irritating but intriguing at the same time. Complicated once again. And then Hesina also has a half-brother, Rue. I think that's how you say his name, or is it Ro? I'm not sure. I think it's Rue. And I actually really like Rue a lot. Like, he ended up being a great character and just kind of one that I wish we got to see more of, because he's just such a sweetheart and so good. I just really liked him a lot. So then we also have Sun Jing's and Hesina's adoptive siblings who are twins. We have Cyan, I think that's how you say his name, don't quote me. And then we also have Lillian. And they bring a very interesting dynamic into the fold. Cyan plays quite an interesting role. He's kind of, I don't know what to call him. He is a very learned person. He loves learning. He has a huge passion for learning, and he kind of got Hesina into learning as well. He's very well read and those kinds of things. And then Lillian, she is a seamstress / textile person. She's been Hesina's kind of wardrobe person for a very, very long time. And I just loved getting to see the dynamic between everybody and all of how complex everything is, but like, even though it seems superficial at certain points, that was very interesting. But then there's another character named Xie Zhang. He is a religious leader kind of a guy, and he's very irritating, and you'll find out a whole ton about him as the book goes on, but like, he is not great. Not a fan. That's all I'm going to say about him. And then we also have, his name is Cara, and he's a former criminal, a thief, I believe, and he gets brought into the palace to be Hesina's representative during the whole investigation into her father's death kind of thing. And he's the romantic interest. And I'm going to say it flat out. I just wasn't a huge fan of their romance. I didn't love it. I really didn't love it. It sort of started to grow on me as towards the very, very end of the book. But really, for the first time in 5 billion years, I can definitively say that I wasn't super into the romance. Like, I didn't see it. I didn't love it. Like, I could kind of see it because, it was right on the page, but I didn't love it. So that's fine, I guess. But I did enjoy their interactions regardless. I really liked Akira as a character. He was great. He brought a lot to the book. And I just wanted to know more about him. And then finally we have a bunch of different suits, and then we also have the Kendian side of things, and that comes into play in different ways throughout the book. And I enjoy getting to kind of see the interactions between Hesina and all of those different peoples as well. So yeah, all in all, it was like a good time. It was really interesting to see all of that. But then her father also, surprisingly enough, a role anyway, even though he wasn't present because, he died. But Hesina often thought of like memories that she had with him. And then as the book goes on, you find out a little bit more about him, kind of a thing. And things that are interesting that happen in the book regarding certain memories and certain events and things surrounding that relationship, and just her familial relationship with her mother and her father and her brother and her adoptive siblings, and just everybody familial basically has an interesting role to play. But all in all, it was a pretty solid book. There were some weird things. The characters were not my favorite part about it. It was honestly the plot, which is also pretty rare for me. So it was like a mixture between the characters, like certain character interactions, as well as the plot, because they really, really fit hand in hand in this book. So I don't know. I enjoyed it, and I hope that if you guys pick it up, that you continue on and that you enjoy it as well. And please feel free to come talk to me about it when you read it. So I went back and I was looking at the rules for the Mythotech Readathon, because I'm reading Rick Riordan's Kane Chronicles trilogy, or at least the first 2 books, and I just added on the third for the Readathon, because I was going to originally do it for the 50 points that they'd said. They're like, oh, 50 points is like a win. But then I reread the rules, and you can choose to do this Readathon in any way you want. You can do it for points, so to get the 50 points, or you can do bingo, or just kind of like whatever you want. And looking at the bingo board, I'm looking at the challenges and the books that I'm going to be reading. I'm going to be able to go for bingo. So that's what I'm going to do, because odds are I will be able to finish at least the Red Pyramid this week. So now I feel a little bit less stressed and anxious about finishing the Readathon. I'm only going to read one more book, and it will be the Red Pyramid, and then I'll just kind of carry on the other 2 over the next couple of weeks, still to just finish them out within the month. So that's kind of my new plan. So I will be reading the Red Pyramid and have that just be my mythology retelling book. The Descendant of the Crane met 3 challenges. That met the written by a POC, Asian-inspired world, and animal on the cover, I believe. I don't remember the exact challenges that I used for it, but those 3 for sure. And the animal and the written by a POC are right next to each other on the bingo board. And then if I read the mythology retelling, which I'm going to use for the Red Pyramid, that will meet my challenge, the challenge for the mythology retelling, and then that will be my bingo. Going straight down right, just like that, and then I'll have just my extra little Asian inspired over there. So that's what I'm going to do. I am a little bit bummed that I wasn't going to be able to do the 50 points like I originally thought, but just getting the bingo and being able to win in a different way is making me feel a lot better.
So I just read a ton of the Kane Chronicles, the Red Pyramid, which is the first book, and it's weird. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, I love Egyptian stuff, period. Like, it's one of my favorite ancient times to study. Not that we actually studied it much, but that's besides the point. So I'm really enjoying that and kind of allowing all of the myths and things to kind of slowly come back because I don't, because I haven't studied them in depth. I took one class in college that was about the ancient Near East, and we talked a little bit about ancient Egypt, but that was about it. A lot of it, a lot of ancient Egypt stuff I learned by self study when I was a kid. So I'm not as familiar with it as some other regions. So I'm enjoying that aspect a lot, but I'm not loving Carter and Sadie. And there's just something about the pacing that is just not working for me. Plus, this is using one of my least favorite plot devices ever. I've heard books 2 and 3 are better, so I'm just gonna push through and hope for the best in the later books. Because I really want to keep reading because, like, ancient Egypt. But, like, I don't care about anything except for ancient Egypt.
I haven't updated you guys at all today. Sorry about that. But also, first and foremost, it's August 13th, and that means it is Left-Handers Day. So happy Left-Handers Day to all of my fellow lefties out there. But anyway, that's not what this is about. Today, I didn't really do much reading. I did read, 6 chapters of Emma because I know that I won't be able to read on some days this week. So my brief update for you guys on Emma is went to a lot of parties. A lot of people are still commenting on Emma and Harriet's close, intimate relationship. Emma's meddling is causing some problems and it's starting to backfire against her because a lot of people are getting together with people and she disapproves, and I mean severely disapproves, of those pairings, and she thinks that these people should be paired with other people. And it's just really showing her youth and her naivete about a lot of stuff, in particular relationships. Like, I still enjoy her character though, in a weird way, because I like the character study. I like getting to see where she started and kind of where she's going. That doesn't mean I'm loving the book, because I'm not. It's interesting, but it's probably not. It's just not my favorite Jane Austen, I don't think. But I'm still enjoying it. I don't know. I waver on it depending on the day and depending on the part that I'm reading. It could just be the fact that I'm also in like a weird mood too, because I don't have time to properly sit and absorb it properly because of the way everything is going right now. So I might take a brief break from classics once I'm finished reading Emma, which should be next week. That is how it's being planned. Tonight, I probably won't read anything because I'm Skyping with a friend, and this friend, the one who got me into the realm of the Elderlings, we talk a lot and for hours. Like, the minimum that we usually go is like 4 hours, I think. So, yeah, we have a lot to catch up on because I haven't talked to her since May because of bar stuff. It's August 14th today, and I read a little bit of Emma this morning. It was a lot of similar stuff and themes as to yesterday. One thing that I did like section is really starting to do is starting to delve into societal expectations and kinds of stuff. And I just loved discussions on that and just how Jane Austen tackles those subjects. The particular chapter that I was reading this morning did a really good job with that. But then once again, we were just doing some meddling shenanigans and playing music on piano or various piano-like instruments of the time. But then, of course, there is a little bit of hintings at a romance budding between Emma and Knightley. But in a way, it's kind of like coming out of nowhere. I don't know. I have weird feelings about their relationship, but whatever. I have weird feelings about the book. So that's about what I've got.
I realized I never updated you guys last night. Last night I ended up reading a little bit more of the King Chronicles, and it's getting kind of exciting now. I still don't love everything, pretty much anything except for the mythology, but there was one character that I liked, but we don't get to see much of him, and so that's fine. But it's just like, I don't know, it just seems to have a really bad pacing issue so far. Like, it just jumps from one thing to another with like little to no explanation because of their dumb, like, I'm not gonna explain this important thing to you right now thing. I hate it so freaking much. Yeah, I'm enjoying it, but I'm not loving it. So I'm still having weird feelings about it. But we'll see. I'll get to more of it today. I will not be reading Emma today because I am getting ready to go and get a haircut. Hey guys, so I realized I didn't update you last night on my reading things, but I read like a whole ton of the Red Pyramid, and my thoughts are this. I'm not loving it. I generally actually pretty much don't like it. I don't like the characters. The writing is not great. But, I do love the world building, and the plot is really interesting as well. So, I mean, it's got some things going for it, but because the characters and the writing are really lacking, it's not my favorite thing in the world. I'm definitely going to keep going with the trilogy because I want to see some stuff, and I've been told it gets better. We'll see. The thing about the book that it does is it's like super far-fetched, like to the point where it's unreasonably so. Like, it just, oh, this thing happens and all of a sudden these people are able to like have all these powers and be the best thing in the world. I mean, like in Percy Jackson, Percy kind of had a similar thing, but it was at least more plausible. It was more, I don't know, it was more reasonably, more well written, more explained, I guess. Whereas here it's just like, oh yeah, it happened and now they can do all the things. But today I am also starting my buddy read of A Study in Charlotte with Cara, and we're both a little bit nervous about going into it. But we'll see. It's short, like it's surprisingly a short book. So we'll probably get through it fairly quickly. But I'm hoping I like it, but we'll see. I just finished my Emma chapters of the day, and today I actually kind of liked them. The first chapter was like all about how Emma's like, oh my god, I'm in love with this person, Frank Churchill. He's whatever. And I mean, I don't know, it's fine. But then she had a conversation with another character, and I think she knows that Emma's like also interested in women, so she was like offering her that kind of specific lifestyle too. She's like, oh, we can do this thing. Emma wasn't a fan of that. Like, she loves Harriet, but like she doesn't seem to like want to go in that other direction either. But yeah, Emma just didn't like that. And then we had another chapter where he was like trying to set Emma up with somebody, and that was like interesting because it's like normally Emma is the one who's trying to meddle and set people up with stuff, but instead it was the other way around, and I don't think Emma liked being on the receiving end of that. Fun times. And then the last chapter was once again like angsting about Jane Fairfax, and then Emma was trying to get information out of Knightley about his like affections for Jane, but it turns out he doesn't have affections for her. And Emma's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, I'm kind of glad about that. I'm like, of course you are. of course you are. Like, why wouldn't she be? And then ultimately she, like, Knightley leaves. Like, it is heavily implied. Like, everyone knows that Knightley is in love with Emma. That's fine. Like, he obviously does, but Emma's, like, blind. I guess I'm just gonna get in the habit of telling you what I had read the night before in the morning, because that just seems to be the trend that I'm getting in and whatever. But that's fine. But one of the things I did last night was I started A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. I'm kind of liking it, but I do have some issues with it. But for the most part, like, it is literally teen/unilock. Like, I am just so prepared for this book because of all of the Sherlock fanfic I have read over the years. But at the same time, like, I am reading it like a Sherlock Holmes fanfic. I'm buddy reading it with Cara. She has very different thoughts from me, actually. She's really not liking it so far. And we've been talking about it. And the other thing that I did last night is I finished The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. Finally. I didn't like it very much. Finished part 2 of Emma. Basically what happened today is more pretentious BS. That's all I'm going to call it. It's interesting seeing the parallels between Emma's pretentiousness and snobbery and the other people around her snobbery, and just seeing how they interact and deal with everything, because everyone in this book is meddlesome in some way or another, and I think that's kind of a fun little thing to bring into the mix. I don't know. We're starting to get some more like romance foreshadowing between Knightley and Emma, which I like. Everyone's talking about Jane still. I'm not sure why. I thought she was out of the picture, but I guess not. And then, like, other weddings and, like, how people should act and dress and whatnot. I don't know. As I said, I have very, very weird feelings about this book. My plan for the day is to and then come back, and I might start transferring some books from my littler bookshelf to my bigger one, and then we'll probably build the other one, I don't know, either later today or sometime on Monday, maybe sometime early next week, and then hopefully I can finish up my inventorying and everything. I read more of A Study in Charlotte today, and you know, it's fine. I'm still having very similar feelings that I did yesterday. But Cara and I have talked about some very interesting things. We have different perspectives on it. She really, really doesn't like it, and I'm liking it a lot more than I was expecting, but not quite to the extent that a lot of people seem to really enjoy it. I'm kind of in that middle road, because, like, I can see a lot of the issues that she's talking about, but then, like, I'm also very, very familiar with all of the original ACD canon, as well as literally pretty much every adaptation ever. So I'm very invested in that, and I'm, like, trying to give it a try. But I'm finding that there's some pacing issues that is impacting my enjoyment a bit. Things I did today is I ended up reorganizing all of my shelves. I am super excited with how they turned out. They turned out really, really great. And hopefully tomorrow evening I'm able to do my mom's shelf. I mean, even though we all share a library, it's, like, impossible for us to kind of commingle our books because of how many we have. So that's cool. But I'm really looking forward to organizing her shelf tomorrow. It should be a good time. Still have to figure out what my dad is doing with his books. He said he's probably going to get rid of like almost all of his, but he's probably also going to keep a few, but I need to know what he's keeping so I can know how to organize them appropriately. It's a situation. I have an issue with this. Tomorrow I'll be starting part 3 of Emma and reading 2 more chapters of A Study in Charlotte. He wanted to call it A Study in Scarlet. At least it's not A Study in Pink.
I just finished 3 chapters of part 3 in Emma this morning, and this is kind of starting to get good now. We're starting to see some results from all of the tension that has been building between Emma and Knightley, and I'm liking that. And then Harriet also has a significant other now, and that's very exciting. So it just seems like everything is now finally starting to get good. So I'm expecting to like part 3 a lot more than I liked the other parts, but we'll see. I'm reserving judgment, of course, as always. And yeah, I might read a little bit more of it today. I'm not sure because tomorrow is going to be another crazy cleaning day. We're tackling my closet and my bedroom, and that'll take all day. That's fine. So I don't know if I'll be able to read tomorrow. We'll see. But I'm making progress, and I will definitely finish it later this week. Small puppy child on my lap as per usual. Oh yes, hello. She's getting a little antsy because we're going to be leaving soon. And then I'm going to come back and build my bookshelf with my dad, and then rearrange my mom's books, which I'm really looking forward to. So we stopped up at this place called the City Market, and we always come here for specific Serbian foods. So we're picking up some cevapciće, which are these sausages, and if you guys are interested, I'll tell you a little bit more about them. But they're super good. They're one of my favorites ever. And then I think we're also getting some kaymak, which is a special kind of butter. And then I think my parents are also getting 1 or 2 other things as well. I don't know, but I'm really excited to get some because it's been a while since I've gotten to eat some. This is my mom's shelf. I'm really proud of how it turned out. I hope she likes it. So you can get a feel. I never updated you guys last night. I just read some more Study in Charlotte. Still having similar feelings, not loving it, not hating it. Then reading, I set up my mom's bookshelf and I showed you that, and it was a good time. Just a brief update for what I'm planning on doing today. I'm probably not going to read any Emma today because my morning is going to be taken up with all kinds of stuff, so that's just not going to happen. So I will probably read my 2 chapters of A Study in Charlotte today because buddy read. But then I might also start the next book of the King Chronicles, which I believe is called The Throne of Fire. And I also realized I forgot to mention that yesterday was the last day of the Myth Take Readathon. I only read 2 books, completed 4 challenges, got my bingo, won the readathon that way. It was fine. I read The Descendant of the Crane and I read The Red Pyramid. One I sort of liked, the other one I really didn't like. It was a nice mix, and I had a really good time doing it, but next time I think I'd probably rather have it be a little bit longer period of time, but I'm also hoping that my life will be a little bit less chaotic. But when is it ever less chaotic? Yesterday, I ended up reading one more chapter of A Study in Charlotte. I'm getting very frustrated with it. Like, there are some things that I do like, for sure. But I find that summarizing the original canon in Arthur Conan Doyle's original canon to be unnecessary, but also, like, she doesn't do it right. She doesn't get to the heart of what those stories actually mean. I was talking to Cara last night, and I was getting really irritated about kind of just how that was all playing out. And we got to talking, and I am a huge, huge Sherlock Holmes fan. Have been for a long time. But we were talking about how disappointing it can be when it's like you really love the original source material or adaptations. Like, there have been really good adaptations, and you've liked all of those, and then when you stumble across a bad one, it just makes the bad adaptation that much worse. I picked up The Throne of Fire, which is the second book in the King Chronicles, and it's intriguing so far. I'm only 2 chapters in, but stuff's already happening. I'm not seeing it as much better than the first one, but we'll see. We have some new characters that have been introduced, and of course, a new crazy story. It only picks up, I think, 3 months after the other one ended, so it's not too much of a time jump. I don't know if I'm going to get to Emma. Hopefully I'm still able to finish it when I want to. We'll see. I might spend a large chunk of the day on Thursday cracking that out because I have a bit of free time and a bit of a reprieve on Thursday. Come on, lovey. Come on. Come on. Yes, hello. Oh, you're so cute this morning. So I did manage to read my 3 chapters of Emma today. I'm really liking it now. Emma and Harriet had just a lovely little chat about some stuff, and there's some more party shenanigans, and just everything's starting to come to a head. And I don't know, I'm just really liking part 3 a lot more. Part 2 is okay in parts, and then part 1, it just didn't click with me. So yeah, I'm slowly making my way towards the end. Read my section of A Study in Charlotte today. Still feeling the same. It's not my favorite, and I get a little bit more annoyed with it every time. But today's was a little bit more case heavy, so I kind of enjoyed that a little bit. I figured out, I'm like 98% sure I figured out who the murderer is, like a couple chapters ago. And just with each chapter, I feel like it just gets more and more solidified in my mind. So that's kind of taking the enjoyment out of it even more. I should have expected to figure it out as quickly as I did, but like, I'm disappointed that I did. I shouldn't be surprised though, because that's something that I have gotten very, very good at, except for in very rare circumstances. Despite it being 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I just finished my sections from Emma for the day. I read my 3 chapters. I'm really actually enjoying part 3, like a lot more than I was expecting to, because I just haven't been loving the book as much as other people have suggested and things of that sort. It's still a Jane Austen novel, so I'm still really enjoying it, but it's just not my favorite of the novels of hers that I've read. But now that I'm getting into part 3 a little bit more, it is a one that has, it's starting to pick up, and I'm starting to get a little bit more interested than I was. But the chapters today,
dealt with, similar themes as usual. My favorite was probably the first chapter I read today. Emma was at a party and she said some insulting things, as per usual. And Knightley called her out on her BS and basically made her cry. And I'm like, yeah, good. She needs to be called out sometimes. And I love that he, despite all of his connections to the family and everything, and knowing how well revered she is by pretty much everyone around her, is just not afraid to call her out on stuff. I just love him for that. It's really nice. It's really, really refreshing. I do really like Knightley. I'm really looking forward to seeing where the book goes from here, because just things are really starting to pick up. Churchill basically asked Emma to find him a wife and gave specific specifications and everything, and I thought that was really interesting. I'm going to read my A Study in Charlotte chapters for the day. We're nearing the end, sort of. So I'm gonna probably read my 2 chapters of the day soon. And then because I have all of the evening and night to myself for the most part, I'm probably going to try and make some large headway in the Throne of Fire. Just realize that I did read my 2 chapters of A Study in Charlotte earlier today, much earlier, and same as usual, they're okay, nothing spectacular, but we did figure out who the murderer was, and guess what? I was right, as per usual. This is why I can't read mysteries. I guess the murderers and the whodunit within way before we're ever supposed to figure it out. Remember how I said I was gonna get through a lot of Throne of Fire today? Well, that didn't happen. I got through 1 chapter before I got distracted, and that was the end of that. Love it. I also ended up talking to Cara for a while tonight because we have a lot to talk about with our buddy read going on and everything. It's just, I can't read more than 2 books, it seems like, because I'm trying to read 3 at once. It doesn't seem to be going too well. I finished my chapters of Emma a little bit earlier today, but a lot has happened since then. I'll get to that in a minute. First, my thoughts on the chapters today. I really enjoyed them. Emma found out some news from Harriet, and she was kind of surprised by it, and now she's having feelings about everything. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that Harriet and Emma are kind of the same person in a lot of different ways, because they both like the same guy. They both have some similar reactions to things. They have to consult each other on everything, and they're just 2 sides of the same coin kind of a thing. And now that I've realized that, a lot of things make sense and are kind of interesting. In other news, I fell down the stairs earlier today. Love that for me. I'm a bit sore now. I'm fine, I'm ambulating and I'm fully functional, just a bit sore in random parts of my body, and I'm definitely going to bruise, and it's just not ideal. I mean, full disclosure, I am a regular kind of klutz. I crash into doors, and I've slipped and fallen on ice and downstairs before. Not in a long time, at least the stairs part. It's been a little while. But it's never a good time whenever it happens. Probably start my chapters for A Study in Charlotte. I might finish it today, but we'll see how I'm feeling. And I finished A Study in Charlotte. Well, I didn't love it. It's not one of my favorite Sherlock Holmes retellings, or adaptations, I should say. I doubt I'll continue the series, but we'll see. That could change at any point in the future. Good morning, or I should say good afternoon, guys. It's 12:20 something. That clock is always wrong. And I do feel very sore today. I'm
not gonna lie. But I also managed to squeeze in my 3 chapters of Emma for today. But I did enjoy today's sections. Things finally came to a head, and it was actually quite good. Emma and Knightley kind of had a chat, and now they're negotiating stuff, and I think that's hysterical. But then there was also like an interesting plot development with Churchill and Fairfax, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about classical works is like you can all just reread them all the time and then always pick up something new or see things in a different light, because as you grow and experience things, these books kind of change with you. And I love that about these. And I know that it'll happen with this book should I reread it in the future. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is August 24th, and it is nearly 1 p.m. I didn't do any reading last night. I was mostly editing my vlog, and then I finished that up this morning. It is currently about 3 hours long, so I'm trying to figure out how I can shorten it, or like what I'm going to do about it, because I'm never ever ever going to do that kind of a thing again. I did just finish Emma by Jane Austen. Loved the ending. It was great. I loved that it didn't have a typical Jane Austen ending. Like, it did have a typical Jane Austen ending, but it wasn't explicitly like both Pride and Prejudice and Persuasion. It had a little bit of extra stuff in it. Like, after the couple got together, there was some stuff that was going on before they got married, and I really enjoyed getting to see that. It was different, and I liked it. But I'm glad that I was able to finally finish it, so that means I've completed Classicasthon, and therefore concluded all 3 readathons that I was participating in this month. I only have a few days of this vlog left, but all I've been doing since yesterday after I finished Emma is reading Kane Chronicles. I'm in the middle of Throne of Fire now, and all kinds of stuff is happening. I will say that it is better than book 1, so if you didn't like book 1, I'd say give book 2 a try. It's a bit weird at the start, but once you get through about 4 or 5 chapters, then things start to get interesting, and it's just, I don't know, better written. And now I'm kind of enjoying the characters, whereas in the first one I just didn't care about them. So it is worth a shot, I'd say. I figured that today I would do a brief little book haul for you guys. So first one I got is Finnegan of the Rock by Melina Marchetta. It's a fantasy series, and I've heard Cara from Wilde Garden talk about it all the time, and she kept telling me that I would really like it. I found out it's only a trilogy instead of a series like I thought, so that's kind of exciting. But I have the first book, and I'm really, really excited to pick it up. Then the next one I got is Nevernight by J. Kristoff. And if you have been living under a rock for 500 years and don't know what this book is about, it is basically about, it follows the life of this young girl named Ali Corvere, I think is how you say her name, because it is an Italian-based world, but a lot of people pronounce it Corvere, so maybe, I don't know. But it's basically about her journey to, I think, find out what happened to her parents, and then she ends up going to this assassin school and training to be an assassin. And we all know how I feel about assassins. A+. Excited, and Italian things. I have heard interesting things about this book, though, in that it has footnotes, and I'll be very, very intrigued to see how that comes into play in the book, and to see if I feel similarly to other people while they're reading. The third book that I got is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I have heard nothing but phenomenal things about this series, and I'm so excited because someone kind of described it to me as like taking similar themes that were in Animorphs and kind of putting it into a more YA adult series, and I'm just like, yes, I love that, because there were a lot of really, really incredible topics discussed in the Animorph series, and I just love to see more of that discussed. And if what I've heard is correct about the Wayfarer series, I'm just excited, and I'm probably going to love it. Then the next book I got is called The Wolf and the Whale by Jordan Max Brodsky. And I don't know too much about this. I think it's Norse based, kind of, or I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's a Norse based fantasy or Native American. I'm not entirely sure. It's definitely something that I haven't read a ton of recently. Fell in love with the premise, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what I think. Don't know like too much about it, so I don't feel like I can explain it properly, but I think it has something to do with shapeshifting or something to do with a person getting stuck in a specific animal's body or something. I don't know. But then I heard like Norse based, and I'm like, yes. So I don't know. I'm a hot mess. We know this about me already. One I've got is called The Mage's Blood by David Hare. And this is the first book in a series. I don't remember what the series is actually called, but it's kind of been described as a better version of Game of Thrones. And that just really appealed to me because, like, I have interesting feelings about Game of Thrones, but, like, I love the concept and the world building of it. So if this book has as good of world building and characterization and journey that is in Game of Thrones, but like done better, I'm gonna love it. But you know, jury's still out because I haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. And then the last ebook that I got actually today is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Yes, I am very late to this game. I'm very, very well aware of that fact, but I am very intrigued to see if I enjoy it because I've heard it's quite a polarizing duology. You either love it or you hate it. It's a very whimsical, flowery world, and I think it's heavy romance based. So I'll be interested to see what I think because I love whimsy and I don't hate flowery writing. And just the way people have described it makes me very intrigued. So hopefully I'll like it and want to continue on to Muse of Nightmares, but we'll see. The premise of this book, as far as I am aware, is that it follows a boy named Laszlo Strange who dreams of this lost city called Weep. And things kind of go from there or something along those lines. Don't know. I think it deals with the library at some point. Forget everything that I've ever said. I'm not good at summarizing things that I have not read. So, cheers to that. Final two books that I got, I actually surprisingly got in physical copy. I know. It's a really big deal, guys. But when I went on my excursion a couple of weeks ago, and they are The Bear and the Nightingale and The Girl in the Tower, both by Catherine Arden. These are the first two books in her Winter Night trilogy that follows Vasya and her adventures dealing with demons and winter themes and just the connection and the changes between the old ways and the new ways. And just, I've read them already. I've read the entire trilogy and I'm waiting for Winter of the Witch to come out in paperback, which is going to happen October 1st. And I'm probably going to pick that up immediately as well because after sitting back and thinking about it, I've really come to realize that this is kind of one of my favorite series. I don't want to say it's like top tier, but it's up there enough that I wanted physical copies of the books, especially for something that I have planned for next year if all goes according to plan. But I'm just so glad that I got these for myself. No regrets, just 100% yes. I'm going to link my review for the trilogy up above if you guys haven't seen it already. It is spoiler free for the most part, so I definitely recommend watching it if you haven't already, so you guys can get a better feeling as to my thoughts, feelings, and in general what this trilogy is about. So yeah, those are all the books that I've gotten since I last talked to you back in beginning of June. As for a reading update, I haven't done any reading yet today, but I am planning on finishing Throne of Fire tonight. Hopefully all goes according to plan. And of course, I'll update you guys as to my thoughts and feelings on that after I finish. I just finished The Throne of Fire by Rick Riordan, which is the second book in the Kane Chronicles, and it was a good time. I'm not gonna lie, I actually really enjoyed it. The second book is leagues, when I mean leagues, better than the first book. I realized that I never updated you guys yesterday on anything, and I also didn't update Goodreads on anything either. So yeah, yesterday was just not ideal. Like this whole week has just been all messed up. Honestly, just a lot of stuff has been going on. I'm making good headway in The Serpent's Shadow, and I think yesterday I was on like 23 or 24%. I didn't read a ton. Today I am making great headway, and I'm done with The Serpent's Shadow. I finished the Kane Chronicles, and I finished all of my reading goals for the month, and I'm just so excited about it. I'm not going to be reading anything new. I'll start whatever I'm starting next on Sunday, because I've got a thing tomorrow, so I'm done. I did all 6 things that I set out to do. It was a wonky month in terms of reading stuff. So it's time for me to wrap this month up since it is August 30th. I'm not going to get anything else read before the end of tomorrow. It's just not going to happen. If you guys don't remember, all the way back when I did my What I've Been Up To Lately video, I talked about all of the things that I had planned, such as decluttering the house, participating in 3 readathons and a buddy read, and just reading 6 books. I actually did complete 6 books, so that makes it one of my better reading months for the year, because I normally don't read a lot in a month. So the first book that I read and finished in August was The Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. And the basic premise is that our main protagonist's father has just died. She suspects it's murder and wants to find out what happened to him, and political intrigue ensues. This book is incredibly heavy on political intrigue and politics just in general. So if that's not something you're really a fan of in books, I'd say probably skip it. But if it's something that you've been wanting to try or that you do tend to enjoy in books, I'd say definitely give it a go. I definitely had an interesting ride with it. The 3 parts. I really wasn't a huge fan of part 1. Part 2, I had an interesting roller coaster ride with. I liked parts of it, but I didn't like other parts. And then the last part, I ended up really enjoying. So the second book that I read in August was A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro, which was the book that I buddy read with Cara over at Wilde Book Garden. And basically, the premise of this book is it is a Sherlock Holmes retelling where Holmes and Watson are teenagers at an American boarding school, get accused of murder, have to solve murder, etc. The premise is basically any Sherlock Holmes story ever. Involved in murder. Have to solve murder. Great. The writing of this novel was pretty simplistic. It was engaging at times and generally pretty enjoyable. In terms of the world building, there really wasn't much. It took place in modern day United States. I think it was in Connecticut. But Holmes and Watson were both from, England. And so that was just like a bit strange. But I enjoyed kind of getting to see the little bit of world building that we got with um, the boarding school and just kind of everything like that. But really, there wasn't any world building. It was just mostly like, okay, boarding school setting in the United States, cheers, and working with American law enforcement rather than Scotland Yard in England. So, I mean, the essence of the overall world was still there, despite it being in present day and them being teenagers. So, I mean, lift, move to different time period, same story, same kind of setting, same overall structure of the way things go. Moving on to the plot. The plot of this novel really wasn't anything special, at least in my book. Once again, as I said, it is literally a Sherlock Holmes retelling. So what the author did is she took different Sherlock Holmes stories and kind of intertwined them into the plot in the overarching grand scheme of things. And honestly, it really didn't work for me because she would just like summarize certain stories from the original works, and it just didn't work for me. It really actually quite irritated me because there were some that like I felt she missed the complete meaning of and everything. It just was not sitting right with me. And then the overall plot, like figuring out who the murderer was and just all of the things like that were supposed to keep you guessing, I thought were really ridiculously predictable. And frankly, I got quite bored with the plot because I was like, okay, I know what's coming. I know how this is going to end. I know where this is going to go. Why am I reading this still? So I was just frankly really, really disappointed with how that went. And also just how the author handled certain things with regard to, an overall Sherlock Holmes story. I don't know, it just didn't work, and it almost felt like she completely just copied and pasted all of the original Sherlock Holmes stories and put them into a modern setting, made Sherlock a female, and kind of went from there. So just nothing about it was original. And I was just, as I said, frankly bored, and I didn't really care that much. But at the same time, like as a longstanding fan, it was somewhat enjoyable because, once again, it's a Sherlock Holmes story. I'm gonna like aspects of it. So I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And I felt more disappointed by it as time went on. And now talking about the characters. This is where a lot of my issues come from. So the story was told from Jamie Watson's point of view. Jamie and Charlotte are great descendants of Sherlock and John, like the original Sherlock and John. Literally what Brittany did is kind of, as I said, just take everything there was to know about the actual original characters and plop them into a modern setting. And they all had the same genes. The Holmes family trained Descendant Holmes in the art of deduction. Like, she was homeschooled, she grew up in a household, she didn't get on with her parents and just kind of didn't like her brother very much. The drug addiction stuff was in there. There's just a lot, like everything about Sherlock's character from the original Holmes, but also from other adaptations, just was kind of like smashed together in one thing. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I understand what you're doing. Like, you're sticking to the true original works. However, some of the things that you're doing do not translate well from Sherlock as a man to Sherlock as a female. It just did not work in some respects. Like, just some of the disguises that Charlotte would do, like Sherlock is known for doing disguises, and Charlotte did some too, and they were just very degrading in a lot of ways. Like, it just didn't work. There was some handling of certain things that just did not work, and I'll touch on them in a minute because there are a few triggers associated with this book. I will let you know that. And like the same thing for Watson, like hothead, bad temper, angry all the time, jock thing. Like, yeah, it's a thing that happened. And as I said, I was not enamored with it. Just Charlotte is set up to be this unlikable female character. And I mean, honestly, I didn't like her or dislike her. I felt nothing for her, which for a Sherlock Holmes retelling is bad. Um, you want to like your main character or your main protagonists, and I didn't care either way about Charlotte or Jamie. I just didn't feel anything for them. Jamie was our narrator, and I thought he did, a pretty good job narrating. We were finding things out as he was finding things out and experiencing things as he was experiencing things. But as for his character and how he was written and described and things like that, it just didn't work for me. I mean, like, as I said, she copied the characters exactly. So I had a lot of issues. And when it came to bringing in the Moriartys and bringing in Charlotte's brother named Milo and and bringing in Jamie's father and just a whole thing, it was a hot mess, frankly. But there are trigger warnings for drug use, off-the-page rape that is discussed, eating disorders, familial issues, I guess I'll put that down as well, and I don't know, objectification of women, because Jamie was literally obsessed with Charlotte. Another thing that I will say about this book and probably this series is that it is a great fan service. Like, fans of Sherlock Holmes, like hardcore fans of Sherlock Holmes, would probably like it because not only does Brittany give you all of the ships that you want, canon or not, from the original. Just as a Sherlock Holmes fan and being as immersed in the fandoms, depending on how we want to classify it, as I was and in some ways still am, the ship wars are incredible. So in order for all of you to be happy, honestly, just read this series. And then one other thing I'll say, and this is maybe a bit harsh, especially since, I regularly read fan fiction. I'm not bashing it by any means, but I am going to say that this book, if it was written as a fanfic, would have been all the rage. Like, it would automatically become a fandom classic. You tell everyone when they join the fandom, go read this. But as a book, it's considered, in my mind, to be a very mediocre book. I don't know why I'm drawing that distinctive line, but I am. As a retelling overall, it had a lot of issues, and I would not, frankly, recommend this as a first Sherlock Holmes retelling or an introduction to Sherlock Holmes, frankly, because it doesn't do the original works justice. In my mind, it tries to be something and it's not. I know this series is beloved by a lot of people, and I don't know if Rocky watches, but I'm sorry, Rocky. I didn't love it, but I tried, and I figured it out for myself. And I mean, this is all to say that I am still on the fence about whether or not I want to continue reading the series. But then I sat back and thought about it, and right before I was going to film my wrap up, I was like, wow, I read that this month, and I haven't thought about it since I finished it. And that's usually a bad sign for me. Like, not that I didn't remember it, because I still vividly remember the plot and everything that happened in it. But if it's kind of like one of those books where it's like, oh, I don't see this book, therefore it's just not on my mind kind of a thing, and it has three more books in the series, and I just don't feel anything about wanting to pick it up, I'm less inclined to continue at this point. It's hard though, because it is a world that I love, and when you find a retelling of something that you love and it's not great or not good, it's just that much more disappointing. Then the next book that I read this month was Emma by Jane Austen. I'm going to probably disappoint some people with my thoughts on this book as well, because out of the three books that I've read from Jane Austen, this is the one that I was the least engaged with out of the three. I have previously read Persuasion, which I read last year, and then I read Pride and Prejudice all the way back in high school. Out of the two of those, I don't have a favorite, but I do know that this one is less than the others. I still enjoyed it, but it just didn't grab my interest like the others did for some reason. This was split into three parts again. I wasn't super invested in part one. I was a little bit more invested in part two. And then as part three came along, I ended up really enjoying part three. I think part of my issue with this book is it could have been cut down just slightly. I felt like there was too much filler and that it was dragged on for too long. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe it was just the wrong mindset at the wrong time kind of a thing. But that's where we're at. The writing of this novel is phenomenal. It's Jane Austen. Of course, it's going to be incredible. That was not my issue with the book. The world building, it was fine. It took place in Victorian England because this is a Victorian classic. Did a good job with it. She lived during the time period. Of course, she would do a good job with it. The characters were definitely where this book shone. Of course, I really enjoyed Emma. I loved getting to see her growth. I particularly loved her relationship with Harriet. I loved that so much, frankly. Like, it was heavily implied that they were in a relationship together, and I just fully supported that 100%. But I also loved Mr. Knightley. Like, I really, really loved Mr. Knightley. He was just, I don't know. I have a soft spot for all of Jane Austen's male protagonists. They're just a good time. And then last but not least is the plot. And if I'm being really honest, that's where this book lacked for me. As I said, I liked the character growth, and that's kind of what drove the plot in a lot of ways, because that's how Jane Austen's novels are. They are very character-centric. But just everything that was going on, it just didn't grab me. It felt very slow moving and not like a lot happened. And I felt myself drifting constantly. But anyway, as I said, I did like Emma. She was infuriating at times, but still enjoyable, still amusing. Definitely saw bits of myself in her. Not to the same extreme as Emma, but like bits and pieces of myself are definitely parts of Emma. But I loved getting to see her growth. I loved the relation, like just her interactions with pretty much everybody. I thought were great and fascinating. But also just looking at the parallels between her and Harriet were just great as well. So yeah, I had a really good time with this book, and ultimately I did enjoy it, just not my favorite of the lot. And then the last three books I read are all part of a trilogy, and that is the Kane Chronicles by Rick Riordan. This is Rick Riordan's Egyptian mythology trilogy series thing, and I had a good time with it. Trilogy as a whole, as I said, there are three books. There's The Red Pyramid, The Throne of Fire, and The Serpent's Shadow. Book one was the worst of the lot. I'm going to warn you now that if you choose to read this trilogy and just invest all of your time in Rick Riordan's books, the first book is a lot and not good. But if you can get to the second book, it gets a lot better from there. Like 2 and 3 are great. Great. 1, not great. Okay. So, overall, as a trilogy, the writing was not great. Like, it wasn't my favorite part of the series. Rick Riordan's writing, frankly, is not my favorite. I don't love his writing. I don't love his style. I don't necessarily love all of the dad humor. I enjoy it in some places, but it's not my favorite kind of humor. So, I mean, his writing, not his strong point, frankly, in my honest opinion. Then the plot, love the plot of each book. Of course, as each book goes on, things get darker. So the first one centers around the fact that Sadie and Carter's father goes missing and they have to find him. That's literally what the plot is, but then it deals, of course, with all the Egyptian lore and myths and the gods and things and lots of chaos. Just lots of chaos, literally and figuratively. Like, just a great time. I did enjoy the gods, but we'll talk about them when I get to the characters in a minute. But the plot of the first book, it was bad. I'm not gonna, frankly, I'm not gonna lie. I just didn't like the flow of it. It didn't work. Plus, he utilized my least favorite plot device, writing device, whatever you want to call it, in the entire world. This thing is important, but I will tell you about it later. No. Tell me about it now. Right now. So, a lot of my issues with book 1 centered around that, but other things too. But as I said, the plot was pretty decent. Then, in terms of the world building, phenomenal. Of course, just all the ancient Egyptian things, just the explanation of all of this stuff, how everything worked in his world and connected. I loved it. I loved it. If you read these books for any reason, read them for the world building, read them for the mythology. Don't read them for the writing. And not always the plots either, but they tie in really well with the world building. So Katie was a fan of that. And now getting to the characters. There is a whole slew of characters that you really need to know about, but our main 2 protagonists are Carter and Sadie Kane. They are siblings, separated by a couple of years. They actually did not grow up together. Basically, what happened is their mother died when they were 6 and 8, respectively. And ever since then, Carter has been traveling the world, because his father was an archaeologist, traveling the world, being homeschooled, doing stuff with his dad, while Sadie grew up in London with her grandparents. And they were not really close. And then when they go to Christmas, their father ends up disappearing. And then they end up having to join together, figure out what the hell is going on, what is their lives, what is happening with everything, and kind of go from there. And their relationship is definitely an interesting one because you didn't get to see a lot of sibling relationships like that in the Percy Jackson series. So I just really liked getting to see that dynamic. There are a few tie-ins, actually, to Percy Jackson, but I didn't like any of the characters in book 1. I just really didn't like how they were written, didn't like them, period. I just didn't like anything about the first book, really, except for the world building and bits and pieces of the plot. But as the books go on, as we get into Throne of Fire and Serpent's Shadow, I really started to warm up to the characters, and ironically enough, I'm pulling a Cara, and my favorite character was a side character who I just wish we got to see more of. It was one of the gods. I loved Anubis, like, more than I can even say. And not just because of him in the book, but just because he was always the one that I was drawn to as a kid. I just had a super big fascination with the death rituals of ancient Egyptian life. When I was a kid, I still do, let's be frank. And I just loved all of the customs and traditions that they had. Like, love it so much. And just how they interacted with each other. They did get irritating, but, you know, as we learn as time goes on, generally the gods in any Rick Riordan novel, they're gonna be irritating because they have their own agendas that they're trying to push. I really enjoyed getting to see all of that and seeing the interactions between Carter and Sadie and the people around them and the gods that they were interacting with on a regular basis. It was just a really good time. I also mentioned that I did 3 readathons. I participated in the Classicasthon, which is what I read Emma for. I participated in the Myth Take Readathon, which I read The Descendant of the Crane, and I read The Red Pyramid for. And then the last readathon I did was the basically 24-hour readathon. And I succeeded in all of them. The Classicasthon, all you had to do was read a classic, and it lasted the entire month. Then for Myth Take, I made it work. I originally said I was going to go for the 50 points to try and win that way, but then that was just not going to work out. So what I ended up doing was just going for bingo, and I got bingo only with the 2 books that I read. So I just had a really great time with that. And then for the basically 24-hour readathon, I would read as much as I could in 24 hours, but also read a book that is on your TBR for ages. And then I also successfully finished my buddy read with Cara. Overall, as I said, I'm pretty satisfied with the month. I'll be interested to see how next month goes. So it's now also time to wrap this vlog up. Finally, you guys are probably like, what the hell is wrong with you, Katie? And yeah, I know I have an issue. I never shut up. That is my main issue. I'm never ever going to vlog an entire month again. I just can't do it. Didn't work for me. Probably won't work for you. No one's gonna watch this. But I had a fun time experimenting with it just to see what I thought of it. And now I am reconsidering things. I have some other ideas in my head as to how I want to approach this, since I am going to have to be making some changes to my channel. You guys know the drill. I have all of my social media links down below in the description. I have a Twitter, which is @ASeaofTomes, which is the same as my handle here. And then I also have my Goodreads linked down below. You guys can go over there and follow me and track my progress and see what my general superficial thoughts on things before I come scream at you about them over here. And then I also have my Ships and Fandoms page, also linked down below for you guys to take a look at if you are interested. And I will catch you later in another video soon. Bye!